Lindstrom. I'm at Sims, and today we're happy to have Andy Cupie. That's not how I would first guess how to pronounce that name, but Cupie from Memphis, who's talking about a big wind event that occurred there first weekend of summer, Memorial Day weekend. First, a couple of things, just some background information. This is part of the ongoing Forecast Decision Training Division satellite chat. There's a library of them if you want to see some past talks. And we're always looking for speakers. So if something interesting has happened in your forecast office, and you or one of your staff or one of your colleagues wants to talk about it, please send me, Scott Lindstrom, or Dan Bykos at Sierra an email, and we'll help you get set up. Just some background things. We'll have about 20 minutes for Andy's talk, maybe 10 minutes of Q&A after that. Don't press hold. And with that, we'll hand it over to Andy.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting us to give a talk on this. I know Dan Bykos and Scott Lindstrom organized this, so thank you, guys. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, went away. Give me just 1 second. All right. So event overview, just want to talk briefly. This was a pretty big event, widespread, not only in our area. We'll kind of show that here in a minute. But this was a long-lived bow echo. According to the new SPC definition, it probably could be classified under Derecho. Probably one of three that day. Started all the way up in southern Missouri, traveled all the way down through our CWA, even went into, I think, Birmingham and parts of Huntsville's area before dissipating. Widespread damage occurred to mainly trees and power lines, so it was a big infrastructure issue. Caused significant disruptions in the power infrastructure in the Memphis Metro. We had the second largest power outage ever for Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. So it's pretty significant, affected a lot of people. Just want to show this graphic quickly. That day, 543 wind reports. It was pretty significant SPC that day. We'll get into it in a minute. Had a moderate risk with an enhanced. Was a derecho, not unprecedented. Widespread damage throughout Shelby County and a few other counties, but obviously the Memphis Metro, around 1.3 million people, was significantly affected. This is a pretty cool graphic from SPC. We got it off their social media site. This kind of gives you guys an indication of timing. Over there on the right side, you can kind of see earlier in the day there was one up near St. Louis that kind of moved down around the 11 a.m. through about 4 p.m., and then we had another one move through this area. And this is our CWA, by the way. Kind of a square. It actually just works out perfectly like that at this moment. So you can see we kind of had two of them, and here are the arrows. SPC kind of said with the new derecho definition of what occurred that day. So it was pretty significant. You could see it move through Louisville's area, parts of Nashville, and two of them clipped our area, including the Memphis Metro, with 371 wind reports there. So there's Memphis right there in the middle of it. So SPC had a great forecast that day. All the models were in pretty good agreement. You can see there was a moderate risk in the top left. Down on the bottom left there, you can see wind. They had a hatch over the area and a 30% over the Memphis area. So a really good forecast. The models really helped us out in this regard. The main issue was really kind of trying to mitigate risk and communicating the risk that day, especially on the weekend. So quickly looking at the 500 millibar charts, mainly zonal, almost southwesterly flow, but it was supportive of obviously cold pool development, allowing these long-lived cold pools to cause wind damage move across the lower Mississippi Valley. So we have this thing called Memphis in May every year. If anyone's ever been down there, we have a whole month of May. People deem this event Memphis in Mayhem. Pretty crazy name, but it speaks volumes to how people felt It was obviously the last weekend of our big event. There were a couple of outdoor fireworks events planned around 9:30. One at the local downtown AAA stadium, the Memphis Redbirds, and another for what we call 901 Fest, which was that's our area code here, and they had a fireworks thing. It had about 10,000 people were going to be outdoors, maybe a little bit more. And the timing was right around then that was going to be coming through, so it was pretty crucial. It was also the first Saturday night of summer. So, looking a little bit about our messaging, we had a pretty good forecast, so we were able to kind of, 4 days out, mention that we were going to have strong to severe storms, which gave us pretty good lead time. We ramped up our messaging about 2 days out to kind of keep it fresh on people. We don't want to overwhelm them too far out with it. We posted a forecast radar loop that day from the new wave system from out of Sacramento office, I believe. We'll kind of show some of that. We also posted a video briefing to our social media in addition to sending it to our partners and MLGW and all those core partners. And we emphasized widespread damage and wind event, and this graphic pretty much shows that. I believe this template came out of San Antonio originally. A lot of people have kind of made it their own. I know that we have. We really like it. It's kind of a preloaded graphic where it brings in the outlook for the day, and then we're able to kind of do that threat impact level there in the bottom right. And you can obviously see wind was at the highest. Hail was still being advertised depending on the evolution of the storm mode, but mainly the wind was it. We got tornado and flash flooding pretty low. So we felt like we had a pretty good handle on communicating widespread wind. And you can see their mid-south threat level is moderate. So we were kind of focusing, on that 4 out of 5. It got shared quite a bit, and we just wanted to make it short but simple, and hopefully that got out. This is one of our lead forecasters, Jonathan Howell, using one of our displays. It's a high-definition 60-inch Samsung that we put our graphics on. We like to do videos via our iPad. It's the quickest way for us to kind of put that stuff together and package it up. You can see the wind on this one is at the highest threat. So we really were nailing it in our messaging. It's just how are people getting that and how are they reacting to that was the main issue. That came out the day of at 6:30 in the morning. Or no, this is the day before, excuse me. So the day of the event, we put out a new graphic. SPC updated their risk. You can see the enhanced going all the way down into Memphis at this point. I believe the last graphic, that was the same thing, but the moderate came down a little further south. Near Jackson and Jonesboro. Winds way at the top. So we had some pretty good messaging out ahead. This is the wave system. I think a lot of people are familiar with this. They had a webinar on this about a month ago. Pretty cool thing, but you can see here that this is the HER model run. And it was off by about an hour, but capturing the intensity and approximate timing, the CAMs, convection allowing models did a really good job. Obviously having, some meteorological experience and understanding that we had a loaded atmosphere around 3,000 joules a Cape, and it was pretty much going to use all that with the cold pool moving in. So we felt like this was a pretty good tool to use. It got shared quite a bit. So some of our decision support challenges, obviously communicating this risk to the general public before and even during the holiday weekend. First weekend of summer, everyone's getting outside. It was warm, it was sunny, people, excited to get out and enjoy the weather. So it made it kind of difficult. We didn't want people to become complacent and, be at risk. Also addressing and communicating the severity of this event to our core partners, telling us, hey, we got pretty good amount of confidence on this, and we need you guys to kind of act. And some of it, is just unavoidable, mitigating risk, when you have lots of old trees and, above ground power lines. It's just one of those things that we're not sure exactly how you would do that. Maybe they would get out and chop some more trees or, address the health of some, but until it happens, I don't think a lot of people are really believing it per se, even when we know we have great confidence. So that was difficult. Also pinning down exact timing. We had about a 3-hour window with that 9:30 fireworks shows, people being outside. That 2-hour time window was crucial to kind of pinning that down and the intensity and how things were going. So here's a little bit of a radar. I put this together off GR2. You can see Memphis is approximately there in the middle. There was another outflow boundary up there to the north, and I'll kind of zoom in a little bit. But this is just a 2-hour time loop, so it moved pretty quick through our area. And you can see the reflectivity gradient isn't particularly high, but the velocity field definitely pretty strong. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So Memphis is still kind of in the middle there, and it was this boundary intersection. You can kind of see the outbound velocities come together. The radar is right up there near Millington. And so when they came together, there was actually kind of like a downburst or even like a rear flank downdraft that came with it. And this is what happened with it. It just completely smashed all these couple acres of woods right here near this is Highway 51, just north of Memphis city limits. And had this happened just 10 miles south, we probably would have had blown out windows and high rises and significant damage to buildings. So we kind of lucked out there, but right where they came together, man, there was a pretty good downburst here, as you can see. And we got this from our Memphis Police Department Air Support Division, which was very helpful. We put together this graphic just in PowerPoint, looking at the damage path. I kind of highlighted there. Memphis is kind of in the middle. You can see where I put that circle over that tight gradient of, we approximated the wind speed 95 to about 105 using the damage scale off the DAT. And winds all the way from way up northwest of the city to the southeast were generally in the 65 to 80 mile an hour range. We had a 67 mile an hour wind at Memphis. And I think we might have had one a little bit higher, but the ASOS malfunctioned either due to the winds or I think there was a comms issue because the power went out at the airport for a short period of time. So we weren't able to get all that, but luckily the velocities were pretty accurate. We didn't have too much range folding, and we kind of had a lead time ahead of this with a couple other airports, including Jonesboro, that recorded, I think, winds around 60 miles an hour. So post-event messaging, obviously this is an important thing. We got to keep everyone engaged and then move it along. This graphic comes from MLGW, which is Memphis Light Gas and Water. They're a whole conglomerate. And you can see there Memphis is off to the left under the red. And it's a significant power outage. That's really what we're showing here. They said 150,000. I think at the max it was 188,000 customers, which MLGW told us translated to nearly 350,000 people. So we put the number on there. We kind of told people, hey, we don't know if your power's out. Do not assume they know your power's out. Please call this number to report your outage. And so we try to give people, the tools to kind of do that, because obviously it was the main concern, and people were a little perturbed. And so this has actually happened before in Memphis. If anyone's familiar with Memphis, and I think Scott is, Hurricane Elvis, which a lot of us people, we don't like that name because it was not a hurricane, but it was another derecho, and you can see there from the reports, pretty much all along, Memphis is right pretty much at the intersection of the Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi border there, and you can see quite a few reports just stacked right there along the line. And the pictures from that were pretty incredible. I wasn't here during that time. But it was just about the same kind of damage that we had. Power lines in the older part of town that are above ground were completely, knocked over, lots of old growth trees, things like that. So I'm going to let Scott move into and talk about some of the GO stuff and looking at lapse parameters. So let's turn it back over to him.
Okay, and let me scroll down. And I'll just say that my brother lives in Memphis, and whenever weather happens in Memphis, I get a lot of texts from him. So that's why I knew about this particular. And he has two houses, and both houses were without power for, I think, up to almost one house was up to 5 days. So a really big impact on him. But his work in Germantown, that was not affected. So this is the lapse stability product that's on your screen right now. This is one of the baseline products that's available in AWIPS. And I put it up here just because it shows a little, it's clear sky only, of course, and when you have convection occurring, that can be a problem. But it does show a corridor, sort of a corridor of higher CAPE values heading from the convection that's ongoing here in Missouri, and which is causing the clouds that's preventing stuff, preventing a signal down into Memphis. So something to look at when you have this kind of event, just give you some more confidence in maybe some more confidence in your nowcasting and messaging. This is also available online as an all-sky product. I thought it was being demonstrated at HWT, but maybe not. But that also shows a nice corridor over Memphis. This is just an animation of the clear window, and Andy mentioned that collision of the two outflow boundaries, and you can see the overshooting tops that caused those. So just a reminder that this data comes in. If you're used to satellite data in the old days, when it took forever to come in, this is coming in a much more timely fashion. So if you're looking at the radar, take a look over at the satellite sometime too to see what's going on at the cloud top. Memphis is also in a default mesosector, so you could have been using the 1 minute data as well on that particular day. Although I don't have any animations of that. So it's just, here's another animation that's just which I'm stepping through every hour here, and here we have the two. Let me get my cursor. We have here's the one conglomeration of the cold cloud tops. I think this is after the two outflow boundaries.
That's correct, Scott. That was right after, yeah.
Right after the so I'll step through this so you can do the conclusions, Andy. I'll just if you have
sure, that works.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a very well forecasted event. It's like fish in a barrel, really. We had a minimal staff. I think we only had 2 extra bodies, so we had a total of 4. Obviously, with the holiday weekend, we tend to get weather every holiday, it seems like, in Memphis anymore. So we try to staff ahead, but since it was such a great forecast. Second largest power outage in Memphis history, 188,000 customers.
So Andy, I guess I could ask this question later, but was so-called Hurricane Elvis the largest power outage?
I believe so. I think we had up to 350,000 customers without power, and that was just a nightmare, I guess. Some people said it took up to 2 weeks, I think, for full power restoration. Yeah. Most people at the office were without power for how long, guys?
I'm not sure. But Hurricane Elvis?
Yeah.
I know the office itself had no power for about a week.
We had no power here at this office for a week, so we were on generator power for an entire week.
It came in more from the west, so more of the city got hit.
Yeah, it was more from the west, as you guys kind of saw with those reports. So more of the city got hit, as opposed to this was more of in the Midtown area where our older infrastructure is, like above ground power lines. So we requested FEMA assistance. The mayor here, about $7 million is estimated to clean and repair everything. They called up to 100 different out-of-town utility companies for assistance. They worked very diligently to get it done and restored. My wife's dad, my father-in-law, he didn't have power for 10 days. He was one of the last. And so it was significant. The good thing was it wasn't during Hurricane Elvis, like we were in the middle of summer when that happened. This was late May, and fortunately temperatures with clouds stayed around the 80s. So many people weren't having to seek AC shelters and stuff like that. Go to the next one, please. So it was weaker than Hurricane Elvis, and I'd say weaker, maybe it was a little less widespread because it came in from the northwest, moving to the southeast, as opposed to coming to the west and sweeping across the entire metro. So some quick takeaways. There was high confidence in this event, allowed us to do all our messaging, to coordinate with partners ahead of time. Mitigating impacts were largely unavoidable. down trees. I mean, what are you going to do, go around and tell people to take all their trees down? We could, though, in the future, ask them to check the health and make sure areas like that, but they have looked at, for Memphis, since this is our second big event, and damage to the infrastructure, about putting them underground, but I believe the quotes came in around $4 to $6 billion. And so, an event, I guess, 03 at one every 7 years, if it continues at this rate, may end up getting the funding for it, but at this time, $4 to $6 billion is just not in the budget for the city. But some new decision points came out of this with our Shelby County Office of Emergency Management. 80 mile an hour. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a typo on there. We'll blow sirens for 80 mile an hour winds, not 70, excuse me. So when there's a widespread event, our emergency managers, they feel comfortable with blowing the tornado sirens for an 80 mile an hour wind or greater. And so we coordinated that, and that's some of the takeaways, lessons learned from this. Obviously, a big event, outdoor event, or weekend like Memorial Day weekend is difficult to get the message out. But we felt like we lucked out with the storms coming in around 11 and moving through by midnight, as most people had moved indoors or moved into their area. If it came in 2 hours earlier, it could have been quite the disaster here in Memphis. There could have been some deaths and things like that. So that's all I've got. Are there any questions?
I guess I have one quick one. Did the fireworks go off?
The fireworks did go on as planned.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I'll just give you a quick tidbit. The Memphis Redbird Stadium is AAA. It's downtown. Beautiful stadium if you ever come to Memphis. I was there about 2 weeks after, and I spoke with the guys there, and they do a fireworks show on the field, and when the winds came through, they swirled as the stadium is oriented, home plate's northwest. The entire tarp flew all the way up in the upper deck and over the netting, and 3 people went airborne, and luckily were not injured, but that was something that was pretty scary. Unfortunately, we do not provide them with decision support. They have a third-party company in the area that is given their forecast, so I'm not sure if they had coordinated closely or whatnot, but we're just lucky that those guys didn't get hurt.
Are there any other questions?
Hey, this is Steve from Sterling. Could you comment on any use of enhanced wording in your severes and follow-up statements?
Well,
Yeah, I got Jim Branda here. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, as soon as I worked the radar that night, as soon as I started seeing some reports of 76 mile an hour winds and that, I had bumped it up to 80 mile an hour, and we had already a lot of damage reports coming in back in Arkansas, so widespread, this line of storms has had a history of widespread damaging winds. But, we were also kind of limited on how many call to actions to put in there, because it was kind of freezing up our weather NWR system at the same time. So, but other than that, the widespread damaging winds, was definitely one of the call to actions that I used as it came all the way through the city.
Okay, thanks. Sounds like you guys did a great job. We're facing the 5-year anniversary of our June 29, 2012 derecho that hit the Mid-Atlantic tomorrow.
Oh, wow. How significant was that?
About probably as significant as yours, definitely.
All right.
Chicago all the way to.
Oh, yeah. The forecast really did a good job. 5 years, fast forward to now, those convection allowing models are just, you look at the pattern, you recognize it, and then you don't take it at its face value, and I think some people may do that, but in weather service, I think we're pretty good. But we kept seeing the pattern, the NAM 3 kilometer, the HER, everything was latching onto it as much as 48 hours out. So if we could just get all the cams and AWIPs, that would be fantastic, because we go to the web for a lot of that stuff.
Right. And actually, I'm on the MEG dissemination and communication group, and one of the things that we're trying to do is to get some of that high-res guidance back into AWIP somehow, so it's a tough nut to crack. I appreciate that comment. And 5 years ago, the models, they kind of struggled with, at least the 2012 derecho, they kind of struggled with it because we were getting conflicting reports of what was going to come over the mountains here for that evening.
Yeah, well, with your topography too, I mean, we have the luck of all we have is the Ozarks up to our northwest, and then we're pretty flat and hilly. So, yeah.
One last question, if you know, do you know how far in advance the SPC watch was issued, and was it a PDS watch?
Yeah, Jim's here. He'll comment on that.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you remember back on the slide there with the radar loop, the middle derecho kind of that formed on up, that did prompt a PDS watch early in the evening for our north and northeast counties, and then from about the Memphis, the very southern line of counties, including Memphis and Tennessee, and point south, they wanted to just go with a normal severe thunderstorm watch, but when that other boundary outflow from the middle derecho kind of prompted the forecaster on the public desk that evening to go ahead and say, hey, look, maybe we might have some spin-ups with this. Let's just go ahead and go with a tornado watch instead. And SPC agreed with that.
And I'm sorry, just one more question. Before 2012 here, nobody knew what derecho was. Do the people in Memphis know that? Do they know what derecho means now?
I think there's actually a lot of them that do know, and maybe the 2003 event from Hurricane Elvis probably helped with that, because I'm pretty sure that's in the record as a derecho event. So,
Steve, I would answer. This is Tom. I would say that the general public, wouldn't use the term derecho because they probably can't pronounce it. I can barely pronounce it myself, but they have nicknames for this. We have, the 2003 event, Hurricane Elvis, and then this one, there's conflicting information or conflicting naming. One is the 901 Kane or something like that. I haven't figured out what all the names are, but so they don't call it a derecho. They're calling it some wind event. So.
Okay, thanks. Great job, guys.
Hey, thanks a lot for the questions.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks, Memphis. This was really interesting.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Hopefully we get some more applications with these. We look forward to seeing more. Obviously, it's still non-operational, but we did have some guys looking at GOES in the office during the time, and they were kind of looking at cloud tops monitoring. So
Right.
Very helpful. We love GOES 16.
Everybody.
And we're happy it's going to be GOES East. I hate to throw that out there, but...
Okay, well, I believe there is one scheduled in 2 weeks. Check your ALSU mailbox, and you'll get the information on that.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye.
Everyone have a good day.